In our previous class session, we've talked about some basics of grammar, including the concepts of focal knowledge and tacit knowledge, the basic definition of grammar and the broad definition of grammar, as well as prescriptive and descriptive grammar. Remember that prescriptive grammar is the thoughts of grammar that tells you something is wrong. And so, to easier understand it, students can associate prescriptive grammar with prescription because there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. And that's why there are those grammar rules. The descriptive grammar aims at describing grammar rules that people use in daily life. There are just a bit of information and concepts left in chapter one that I'm going to go over today. One is grammar versus usage. Every living language is constantly changing, and that's what makes language beautiful. Because people use it, people can change it. The only language that doesn't change are dead language when people are not really using it. New words or new usage of existing words and phrases are constantly added to the language, and over time, they may become standard or they may disappear from the language because people don't use it. And because people use the language and often add new words and new usage of existing words and phrases, um, the grammar is changing because of the usage. An example from the textbook is the word contact. In 1969, when the members of the American Heritage Dictionary usage panel voted on the usage of contact, most members said contact as a verb is not acceptable in formal writing. It can only be used as a noun. But in 2000, the panel voted again, and the result has been reversed, and that contact can be used as a verb in formal writing. Remember that the board members are voting to see if contact can be used as a verb, and this is in the context of formal writing. Of course, people have been using contact as a verb, both contact as both a verb and a noun in writing and also in spoken language. Because of the constant use of contact as a verb and it gradually being accepted by more people and become standard usage as a verb, the panel voted to say yes, it can be used as a verb in formal writing. Other examples of how usage influence grammar rules, we have a lot of examples, right? New words being created first being used in a particular category, such as Google. When Google first came into our language, it was a noun and it means the search engine Google. And people may say, oh, I'm going to search on Google. Eventually, people started using Google as a verb itself. And instead of saying, I'm going to search that on Google, people just say, I'm going to Google it. Okay. And so then Google changed from a noun with a capital G, which means a search engine, to also include the meaning of verb means to search. You can also think of other examples of how usage changes people's understanding of words, either new words or existing words. In this textbook, the authors use grammatical prototype theory to study grammar. What is prototype theory? Okay, this theory says that there are no clear-cut categories to which members belong. Rather, it is graded. What does that mean? And so, for example, if we are talking about nouns, some members of the noun category are more central than others. For example, cat is a prototypical noun, and green is what we call a peripheral case of a noun. And so, what does that mean? Prototypical and preferable nouns. Think of think of a maybe a circle, or think of one page of paper, and you are putting all of the nouns in the language, if possible, onto that one page of paper. Some of the words are going to be in the center place of the page, and some other words are going to be at the edge of the page. And those are the prototypical words and also preferable words in that particular category. Why do we say cat is a prototypical noun? That is because it fits the majority of the noun characteristics. For example, a cat can take the plural s, which majority of nouns can do, while green usually does not, right? You can say cats. And cat can directly follow an article. You can say a cat. You can also say the cat. So those are two particular features of nouns. And cat can occur after an adjective, okay? And for the adjective to describe it, cat can serve as the subject of a sentence. Cat can serve the object of a verb. And it also has other features of typical nouns so that it's more central compared to others. While green is often used as an adjective, we can also use green as a noun to represent a particular color, right? So I like this green better than that green, which means I like this green color better than that green color. And so, because of the prototype theory, the best way to learn grammar is to learn the criteria used to classify various linguistic forms, plus remember a few prototypical cases of that category and compare other words to the words you know that belong to the particular category. Okay, you will see later on when we talk about the form classes, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and also the different types of phrases, as well as the sentence structures. Okay. This textbook may be different from the other textbooks you have used so far in your college classes. And because the information can be dense, it does not tell you stories. Okay. And so the best ways to read this book to make sure that you really understand the content of it is to first look at the chapter preview and then look at the chapter goals. What does the chapter really trying to achieve, right? And try to skim through the pages to look at subheadings and key terms to get an overall idea of the different sections, of the different concepts of the book. And take breaks during reading. Do not try to finish reading a chapter within one sitting. You can read a few pages. It usually has exercises for you to practice with. You can try to work on the exercises to check your understanding of the content in the previous pages before the exercise. And also look at the key terms again when you finish reading a chapter. One thing to pay attention to is the asterisks before phrases and sentences, both for this class, in my PowerPoints when I teach in class, and also in our textbook. Whenever you see an asterisk, it means that this particular phrase or sentence is not used by a native speaker of English or is not accepted as grammatical structure. Okay. So asterisk means the phrase or sentence is not used by a native speaker of English. In the next week, we are going to look at chapter two. And chapter two is really interesting because it talks about regional and social dialects, talks about standard American or standard English, if that is really a thing, and also kind of talks about English in the international context.